Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of our AI in e-mobility series. So far, we've covered almost the entire battery life cycle, from chemistry and design to testing to manufacturing and BMS development. And today, we're shifting gears. That's probably not the proper term, though, for an EV show. But anyways, we're getting out of the development stage and really looked at the phase when EVs are driving on the road and of course being charged. So we'll discuss how AI can be used in the world of EV charging, and I think especially how it can improve the charging experience. I'm really excited to be joined by Hilary Taylor, CEO of a startup called What's Up? Love the name. If batteries are my passion, I guess charging is Hilary's. She's dedicated her entire career to EV charging, and it's really a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start out by just you telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what led you to founding your startup.
Yeah. So going all the way back, I'm a Georgia Tech graduated with a bachelor's in electrical engineering, went straight into a late stage startup called Whitricity, and they do wireless charging of electric vehicles. And it really opened my eyes into this whole new sector of the industry. And I learned really quickly, this was coming. Yeah, that was my first real taste of the EV charging world. And since that first experience, I have been in different EV charging startups ever since. So I got a taste for the EV industry, but then also the fast pacedness of the startup world, right? But through that entire time, it was very clear as more and more chargers hit the field that we were creating and accumulating this problem of just chargers not working after a certain amount of time, right? So it was great that we were making progress in that sector, the infrastructure sector, but it needs to work. And that really, those 10 years of witnessing the evolution of this problem really served as inspiration for What's Up, which is solving what we believe to be now the number one obstacle to EV adoption, and that's downed chargers.
Yes, I agree. And lots of surveys agree that this is really one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
So just in a nutshell, and we'll talk about all the details later, what does WhatsApp do? And what is the role of AI in all of that in your mission?
Yeah. So What's Up is a cloud software layer that sits on top of the charger and ingests charger data, couples that with things like environmental data, charger reviews, and makes decisions about the health of the charger or weighing all of those factors. And then spits out a predictive insight that empowers the stakeholders, the site operator and the technician, empowers them to make informed decisions about the health of the charger.
I actually forgot to ask you up front, are you driving electric?
So I don't have a car anymore, actually, because I moved to New York City. But had I, gotten my next car, which that was the decision, I would have gotten an electric car. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, now, before we dive into all things technical and talk more about AI in your startup and what you're doing there, I love to start out with kind of understanding how AI influences your personal life.
Yeah.
So first of all, probably, and this is a little bit different for everybody that I'm talking to, how do you define artificial intelligence?
Yeah. I think right now we're in the state of AI right now. I definitely see it as this incredibly useful sidekick that, today we're inundated with so much data. AI is the tool that will draw out the meaningful context in that data quickly, right? And I think even more now as it's evolving, AI is the tool that will find the meaningful signals within the data that you don't even know are there, or you may not be looking for it, but that's what AI can do.
Love that. Do you use any of those super cool AI tools in your private life?
Yeah, I can name a few. I think just like a connected home. I use Amazon Alexa. I've had a Roomba. That's like the most basic, but one of the first interactions of AI I think I've had. And I'm sure I think AI is very much ingrained in our day to day. We just don't realize it because that's how good it is, right? So I think it's an everyday thing now.
Yes, I think so too. And I've discussed this with other interviewees or podcast guests too, where we said that in the future, very soon, we won't even talk about AI we do
Mhm.
today because it would just be so normal. And any product that doesn't have AI in it, they will run
Mhm.
out of business. While right now, you
Yeah.
pay extra if there is any type of fancy AI feature part of a product. In the future, it would just be normal, I think. And
Right.
this
I
future is
agree.
very near.
Very near. Yeah, very. I am in complete agreement with that.
Can you describe a little bit your journey when you personally really got into the AI aspects and
Yeah.
how do you stay updated? Where do you learn about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, my AI sort of journey goes all the way back to college. That was my research. I did human life system research, simulating the International Space Station, and used fuzzy logic to simulate what it would be like to have a sustaining environment made up of humans and plants, just like on Earth, right? So my experience there goes all the way back. And it's funny because I feel like I use AI to teach me more about AI. I make real use of ChatGPT, all the learning modules on AWS and Google Cloud services. There's some really, really helpful um, material there that's free.
Yes,
Mhm.
amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that more private insight. And
Yeah.
now I
Mhm.
would like to talk a little more about everything that you're doing with your startup, and then
Yeah.
especially, of course, also the AI aspects.
Right.
But to
Mhm.
kind of start out and really understand where you are in the battery value chain, in the e-mobility ecosystem. So, what type of EV charging are we talking about?
Right.
And then also maybe we can break down a little bit the EV charging infrastructure and all the individual players.
Right. Yeah. So we are focused on right now public and multifamily charging. So that includes both DC fast and AC. We believe that the tool will be extremely helpful to both. And we decided to go this route versus private because we think that it's fundamental to change the perception of charger reliability. And typically, it's multifamily and public charging that influences the perception of reliability, right? So the tool is best used there. However, I do think that there is a lot of room once we address this and get charging infrastructure back on track to go and focus on private,
Yeah, that
single
makes a lot of
family.
sense. And I guess
Mhm.
also I have not really seen a lot of those reliability issues for private people. So I'm
Right,
also driving electric for many years now, and we never had a problem with a private charger, but of course, tons of problems with public ones.
right,
So that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah. And it's just a side effect. I mean, public and multifamily, they're subject to a lot of different use cases and abuse. So, yeah, we're going to
Yes,
choose happen
yes.
more often.
And really, so we can understand a little bit better the challenges and also what you offer, let's
Right.
talk about like who are the different players in this whole EV charging infrastructure game.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a little bit of a fragmented, siloed industry right now. So, you have your charger OEM, so the entity that makes the charging hardware and sells it. Sometimes the charger OEM can also be a charge site operator, meaning they basically sell it to themselves and own and operate that. You have the site owner, which is not an operator of the hardware, but provides the real estate to install the charging hardware. You have the network provider, which is the software provider, typically. Um, let's see. And then you have the technician groups. So we have all of these really evolving sectors of the market. And we are more closely aligned with the software provider, but we're a new type of software that focuses primarily on um, charge site operator operations and uptime versus a charger like payment acquisition from the driver.
Yes, and in terms of challenges, we talked about reliability in general, but what
Mm-hmm.
would you really say are the most prominent challenges in the whole EV charging and
Yeah.
infrastructure area?
Yeah, I think there's a few. I'm going to be honest. Reliability is the one that is most prominent, I think, in the news right now, that the chargers are just not working. I can think of a couple. I mean, we just need more chargers. That's a big one, right? And knowing where to put the charger, that's a big issue. I think that the standards and standardization, great. Yes. Open protocols, amazing. But with every standard, they are open to the interpretation of who's implementing them, right? So we see different implementations on the vehicle as opposed to the charger. And when they meet up for the first time, it's pain, right? And I come from 10 years of all of this testing, so I know it like the back of my hand. That's a huge issue. So it's not necessarily that the charger is broken. It's that just there's a slightly different implementation or flavor of the protocol on one side that's not allowing a successful charge. That's a huge issue.
For me, I'm not driving a Tesla, so I think according to some studies, reliability is not so much of an issue in their kind of network.
Right.
But so we're driving Ford vehicles and we like to go to Electrify America charging stations. And there were many, many times when we had a charger out of order, broken, not giving us the power that they are rated for. And I think it was at those times not a limitation on the vehicle side, non-working payment systems. So there's a lot of different things that kind of can go wrong.
Right.
According to your experience, I'm always trying to understand like, oh, where is the problem?
Yeah. And like, so I'm just going to go off of some of the latest data that as of August 2024, that data across many, many, many deployments of chargers has found that it's actually the hardware that's failing. And I just had a customer discovery call earlier today. And it was a big corporation. They were saying that connectivity issues are kind of moving into a thing of the past. It's actually not connectivity because chargers are using SIM cards less and less, according to him, at least on their charging fleet. And just couple that with this latest data, it's the hardware that's having issues and vandalism. People are cutting off charging cables. There's a JD Power study that found that 10%, I think, of issues in the field are due to vandalism. So that's what we're seeing. It's physical problems with the hardware.
Okay. And then before you mentioned that some of the challenges would also be in this standardization direction. So what do you think about the NACS, the National Charging Standard, that it looks like every OEM is now adapting to for the connector, kind of following what Tesla has done?
Yeah, so I think that's great. I love that connector. It's very ergonomic and handles power much better. But we're still going to face the problem of there's still a protocol to implement, and it will always be subject to the interpretation of who's implementing it. So I don't think that we're going to be over that hurdle, and I don't think that it's like the magic bullet that suddenly creates reliability, unfortunately. Is it going to simplify things to a certain extent? Yes. But then there's going to be that hurdle of let's make sure that when we pair, we work.
I agree. So now that we have a little bit of a general understanding, let's talk about where your startup makes the difference. And maybe you can explain again a little bit, how do charging stations operate today? How do you improve the situation?
Sure. So typically the ecosystem is a piece of, the charging hardware and then the back office software layer that sits on top. We come in and are a value add to that existing system, and we ingest the charger data and couple that with other meaningful data streams and start to spit out predictive insights that inform two major stakeholders, the site operator and technician, of impending problems. And the big problem right now from what we're seeing in charger upkeep and maintenance is it's very reactive, right? So our solution is it's a way to become proactive about problems happening in the field and align those resources such that it's a seamless workflow between anomaly detected and resolution in the field. So right now, a lot of players rely on, and I've done, I think, probably 70 customer discovery calls at this point. Everybody seems to rely on a customer call or complaint. So
that would be me.
Yeah.
You stand there, it's broken, there's a number, you call, you tell them it's broken, they say, okay, we'll send somebody. 1 week later, you go there, it's still broken.
But that's horrible because the bad experience for you has already happened. And in order to change perception, you got to get ahead of the problem. You got to get ahead of it before the
Yes.
driver has a bad
Yes.
experience.
And now, when you describe that your solution is kind of on top of the charging station, so who are
You're
you
right.
really working with?
Right now, our target customer is the site operator. So it's not necessarily the manufacturer of the hardware. It is the entity that buys and operates and generates revenue from the hardware and then experiences the world of pain when that hardware doesn't operate because they don't make money. So we're targeting right now medium-sized operators. We have 3 pilot customers. It totals, I think they're managing upwards of 13,000 chargers today. That's who
Okay.
we're going to That's who we're going to target first. And then we will scale up from there.
Very cool. And I think your company is relatively young, right?
It is,
But maybe, as you said, you mentioned just you have 3 pilot projects. Is
right.
there numbers, success stories that you can share already in terms of this predictive maintenance and all that?
So the pilot has not started yet. It's starting in October. And I
Okay.
feel like I'll have, if we do a check back, I'll have some very good numbers, give me a month into the pilot. But something I can speak to is we're very young, yes. We started this venture in May, and in that time have secured these customers and, gotten this traction and have more in the pipeline. And
Yes.
the response was immediate and um, it was clear. It was just the amount of pain within the industry. It was so clear, So I think there's something there that can be improved.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, let's talk about the AI part of all
Sure.
that.
Hmm.
And of course, this is also your secret sauce.
Yes.
But whatever you can share, what type of AI you use, how the process looks like to train the models, what's the
Right.
input, the output, it's just interesting.
Yeah, so I can tell you this. So we're using machine learning algorithms, anomaly detection with human in the loop, and that human and where we differ is that we are valuing and empowering and elevating the technician, both in providing them data, but also in valuing their feedback. And so they are the direct feed and continuous validation into the model. And we see them as the best non-biased input. So that's our, on a very high level, our secret sauce and our implementation for how we plan to build the most accurate algorithm.
Okay. And then I have asked these questions to everybody. So when your customers in that case hear that you're using AI, that this is an AI empowered solution, what is their sentiment? How do they react? Are there any challenges in regards to using AI specifically for that use case?
So oddly, I feel like they've been very receptive and actually very educated. And then when we talk about just proactive versus reactive, like they identify with that so strongly. And the fact that this can allow them to get ahead, allow them not to stress, and allow them to avoid less like emergency type situations, they're completely receptive to that. And if AI is the thing that gets them there, so be it.
Yes, wonderful. Very
Hmm.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, last part of the podcast is talking a little bit about the future
Yeah.
for our industry in general, and
Hmm.
then also for you. So what's next for WhatsApp? You mentioned there is those pilot projects, but whatever you
Yeah.
want to share this
Yeah. I
coming
mean,
forward.
the big picture for us is owning reliability and incorporating our AI solution at all stages of the power flow. So, from the delivery to the car, but back to the energy storage, back to, the interconnector, the transformer, whatever power systems are dispensing the power. We want to own all of that and have insight into all of that ecosystem. So that's my vision.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Are you going all the way to the utilities then?
Yes.
If
Yeah.
I'm
That's
thinking that far? Okay,
right.
very
Mhm.
interesting. And then in regards to AI, are there any special developments? I mean, maybe also in your private life that you're looking forward to? I've shared my my excitement for AI agents in the past, where, you're not just typing and then reading a response, but that
Yeah.
the tool is actually doing the stuff for you. So is there anything that's kind of exciting for you?
I would highly recommend everybody to go look at ERA, Entrepreneurs Roundtable, cohort 27. It's the cohort I'm a part of, and every group, every company has an AI element, and they're doing some of the most exciting things I've ever seen. And you speak about AI agent. There's a company that's doing like a sales enablement agent. Um, Across the board. It's just such interesting tech that they're working on. So I recommend everybody to go look at ERA's website and take a look at those companies.
Well, thank
Mhm.
you. I'll have a look too.
Yes.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with us today?
No, just keep a lookout for what's up and what we're doing. And if you want to talk to us, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation. But thank you for this time. This was great.
Thank you so much. That was to the point. I love it. Thank you so much for joining, sharing your insights. It's really been fascinating to hear about what you're doing, and then there is so much more to come.
Yes.
I will think of you also next time I'm going to a public charging station and on the
Yep.
phone.
Let me know how it goes. Yeah.
Well, when can I see? I mean, how would I notice? Do I notice as a private person that your system is integrated in a charging station?
I mean, there might be like a little powered by WhatsApp,
Okay.
sticker there.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you. In our next and last episode, we'll be discussing AI's role in the battery recycling area. So I'm really excited because then we really close the loop in our circular economy picture. And yeah, that's it for this episode. Thanks again, Hilary.
Yeah.
And thanks to everyone for listening. See you next time. Bye.